All right. Hello, everyone. I am here today with Laurie Landry, and she is another contributor in the plant-based bundle. And I wanted to bring her on because Laurie is a plant-based wellness coach, and she helps others with plant-based living. And she's got two books in the bundle, so I wanted to bring her on and chat with her. And I met Laurie on Instagram, so it's so cool to kind of put a face with an Instagram profile, and you meet such cool people through the bundle. But yeah, Laurie, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
Good. I'm really good. I'm excited to chat with you. I love chatting about the bundle and just the whole holistic wellness space. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome, awesome. So I love starting out with everyone. I love to start out with people's journeys about how they got here and got into the space because it's very different than traditional lifestyles. So Laurie, how did you become a plant-based wellness coach? What is your story? How did you get here?
Yeah, so let's see if I can kind of sum it up a little bit. 'Cause it's kind of a long, wild ride. But so I was born with a lot of health conditions. I was born with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. I can't remember if I had scarlet fever or rheumatic fever, but one of those was, tied to autoimmune disorders. As I got older, as I started walking, I always had problems with my feet. Like my mom was always having issues like finding shoes that were comfortable for me. My feet just always hurt. It was just, they couldn't explain why. Um, I'd have breakout in different rashes. I developed more and more autoimmune disorders as I got older. I had Hashimoto's, I had Raynaud's, I had chronic fatigue syndrome, questionable fibromyalgia. I had depression, anxiety. Trying to think of I had restless leg syndrome. I had just a lot of medical issues that was going on with me. And I was seeing doctors my whole life. Like I spent every week pretty much I was at the doctor's appointment, this specialist, this different doctor, my regular doctor, getting x-rays, getting blood tests, all these things. And I had some really great doctors and some really awful doctors, just like any profession. Um, but it all kind of encompassed where doctors were doing what they were taught, right, was to help the symptoms. So they were giving me medications after medication after medication after medication, and I was developing other side effects and other issues by taking all these other medications. Granted, some of them were really helpful, and I am not against medication. Some of them helped me just get through some of the hard times and, help me get where I am today. But because of all the other things I was developing with them, I was always sort of determined to lessen the amount of medications I was taking if possible. And at a young age, I was always sort of drawn to more, I didn't know the term then, but holistic health. Like, I think my aunt got me this, like, what is it? I forgot the title of it, but it was a book and it was all about natural remedies for different different ailments and a lot of it was like for skin health. Like I was really into beauty. I'm a licensed cosmetologist, so I was always into like hair and skin and nails and makeup and stuff like that. And so I was really drawn to, you can use strawberries to brighten your teeth, or you can use cucumbers to help with your under eyes. Like I was always into all of that. So I think I knew, pretty young that not only food, but just natural things that we have occurring out in our world that don't have to be manipulated in a lab were really beneficial for our health inside and out. That being said, I was always used to Western allopathic medicine, so I didn't really question any of it. I just thought I was dealt a bad hand and this was my life. And, I had good times and bad times. Like there were times where I could play sports for a little while, and then times I had to take, days off of school because I just couldn't even like get out of bed. I've had 10 surgeries. I've had the most prescriptions, not just medication, because I was on a ton of like over-the-counter anti-inflammatories and, pain rubs and braces and all these different things that are just you can buy over the counter. But just prescriptions, the most that I've been on at one time was 8 prescriptions, and I was really young. I was in my 20s, and I knew that wasn't normal. I'd go to a new doctor, and they'd be like, "You're on 8 prescriptions?" Like, they were like, "Well, that's not cool." So I always knew that that wasn't normal. None of my friends had to worry about like when they take a certain medication and what time did they have pack it for their sleepover party. And so I always was doing things that I was told. I was a rule follower. If I was told to take my medication, I did. But I also knew that I didn't want to have to be reliant on that. I didn't want to have to like not be able to sleep over someone's house because I forgot or I didn't pack, certain medications or I didn't feel good or, my friends would go out and I couldn't go because I had a procedure the next day or so I was always interested in finding a different solution. And so in my early 20s, I ended up seeing a chiropractor, and I can't remember why. I think I was having issues with my neck and back. And he kind of got me into like, hey, maybe you should see this other doctor, maybe do some allergy testing, maybe do, try some different supplements. So he kind of opened my eyes to the world of holistic medicine and naturopaths. And even though, that particular doctor who was great, was pushing a ton of supplements, which I don't always think is the best idea. Um, but a lot of the tests they were doing, like insurance didn't cover it. So I was paying a lot of money out of pocket just for regular medical stuff, co-pays, prescriptions, hitting my deductible. Plus I was trying to pay for supplements and these tests out of pocket that my insurance didn't cover. So money was adding up. And I was now not only taking a bunch of prescriptions, I was also taking a ton of supplements. And it was just like, how do I even have room for food? But I did. I always ate. Um, but let's see, so I ended up doing a lot of my own research and talking to a lot of other people who were just interested in just natural healing, and just really doing like studying as much as you could before, even before the internet was really very popular. Like I wasn't able to get online. I was, getting books where I could that was all about natural healing. And I would try, diets always came up. So I knew that food played a role. But I was heavily addicted, and I still have some food addictions, heavily addicted to junk food, processed food, and dairy. I ate cheese on a daily basis. No one in my life was plant-based or vegan. So it just felt like that would be cool to do, to try for my health. And also because I'm a huge animal lover. And it's kind of sounds like an oxymoron to say I'm like an animal advocate, but I was also eating animals. Now, looking back, it's hard, or currently it's hard to almost be sympathetic sometimes when I talk to friends and family and people who are eating animals, but then they're like, I have to help rescue these dogs. And I'm like, where do your stances lie? But I was the same way. So I try to be sympathetic to younger me and to those around me because it's not always black and white. Um, and there are people that, there are definitely lots of people who are eating a cleaner, um, omnivore diet, and they may never develop any health issues. But I had a lot of health issues, and so I was gonna get answers for that. And so I tried different diets, ones that I was like, am I allergic? I did like an allergy panel, and it said, you're allergic to all these things. And I'm like, what? So I tried doing that for a while, and it was so hard. And fully, I wasn't all in, I wasn't fully invested. I was just doing it because my doctor told me to do it. And then I tried like South Beach diet, and I tried what other thing? I don't remember any if they had like specific titles, but tried different diets, and they almost all failed because I didn't have a strong enough why. I didn't have any support system. I didn't fully understand why I was doing it. And then um, as I got older, I'm not even sure exactly. I just was always interested in reading about health and even medical stuff and learning about different illnesses and remedies and recovery and transformations. And so I just kept reading. I read a lot. And I then, internet I had it in the palm of my hands, and just every day I'm always looking up something. And I found more and more books, and I found more creators, authors, doctors, a lot of the people who are in the bundle now who I didn't, before the bundles were a thing. I started following them with social media, reading all their books, finding out other people's transformations and what worked for them. And what I kind of ended up deducting was that those who ate like the purest, cleanest, purest, use that term loosely, but the cleanest diets with very little to no animal products whatsoever, no cheese, no dairy, no eggs, no meat, no fish. seem to recover from past illnesses, drop weight, have more energy, feel better, and overcome chronic illnesses. And so I was like, I need to give this a try. And I had wanted to for so many years. I lessened my amount of meat, but I was still eating fish. If I would go out, I would order um, poultry with a meal just because it came with everything. It seemed like it was like chicken on salad, chicken and pasta. We'd always get something. So I was always getting that. But we stopped at, I'm trying to remember how many years ago, but my boyfriend and I stopped buying meat to prepare it ourselves at the house, mostly because we didn't like touching it. It was kind of gross to cook meat. So right there was a red flag. Um, so we were not completely, but like, kind of vegetarian-ish, but I was still eating eggs, eating lots of dairy, and then still eating, processed food. I had chocolate, like candy bars in the house always. But the more, so I was trying to like flush out some of that by eating more and more fresh fruit and vegetables and whole grains. And I definitely started noticing a difference, and that was years ago. Um, and the cleaner I would eat, the more fruits and vegetables I would eat, the less of the sort of, quote unquote junk food I would take in, and I would notice a difference. It wasn't quite enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, but when I decided, so when the pandemic hit, um, I had always wanted to be vegan because for the animals, for the planet, and for my health. But it seemed so hard. But when the pandemic hit, I talked to my partner and I said, we're not going out and socializing. We don't have events to go to. We can't go to restaurants. We're stuck here making our own food for the most part until restaurants open for delivery. And why don't we try to do this now? Like, we should just try it. This is the easiest time probably for us. And so we did, and we had some flubs. It took probably 2-ish weeks to really get over that like craving for cheese, especially. I didn't have any issues like craving meat. I didn't crave eggs. I mean, I craved baked goods that contained eggs, but I didn't crave like eggs themselves. I know maybe it's different for everyone what their cravings are, but it was dairy, it was ice cream, it was cheese. Um, it was, you know, I already switched like the first thing I switched ever was going from dairy milk to plant-based milk. But I mean, if it was in something already, I would have eaten it. But like for my coffee or my tea, I used plant-based milk, so that was easy enough. And it got easier and easier, and I noticed I'm really starting to feel like a lot better. Like I'm having more energy. I'm sleeping better at night. My joints aren't hurting as much, because at the time, like I still had all of these chronic illnesses. Some have gotten a little bit better with slow diet change, but I was noticing it significantly. And then the restaurants opened up again. And now we were committed. We're like, okay, we're still going to try like a plant-based vegan lifestyle. And I live in Los Angeles, so we have access to really good restaurants that are plant-based. So we're like, well, now this whole like new universe opened up. And so now we want to try everything, all the restaurant plant-based stuff, which is great. But restaurants use a lot of sugar, salt, and oil. And sometimes I don't know if they use artificial stuff or other processed stuff or oils that are inflammatory. And so I noticed the more restaurant type food we would eat or the more processed stuff we would buy, that even though it was vegan, it was more on the junk food side. I would notice more joint pain. Notice more fatigue, more cravings, sleep would be worse. So that opened my eyes to, okay, it really has to be like a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. And so that's always been my goal. Granted, we still indulge, like, so I've been able to come off of I was able to come off of all my medication. I've since added one back for my thyroid. And it's like such a minimal amount, and it's not for Hashimoto's anymore, which is nice. It's just for hypo, which is still not great. But my goal now is to come off of that one again. And I know I can do that as long as I just stop eating all like the restaurant food, which is so addicting. But I also noticed that eating more raw plant foods like smoothies and salads well, I mean, you can make pretty much anything raw food, but eating mostly just like really focusing on fruits and vegetables and getting in, the anti-inflammatory foods. I'm noticing like I feel so much better, and I really think that's sort of my goal right now, and that's what I help a lot of my clients to hit. But I know that coming from a SAD diet or a carnivore diet or a keto diet, I know that that's really it's a huge change, and your gut microbiome needs to adjust, like everything needs to change, your socializing like kind of just need to change everything. And it's it's weird thinking back, like, because it was never a straight line for me. It was always very, in most people it's never linear, it's always up and down, just trying to figure out things that are work or what's not working, and you don't always realize something was working until you stop and go back. And so anyway, yeah. So I mean, going from 8 prescriptions to now I'm at one, um, and just the energy I have now. And so you'd ask like why I want to become a health coach is basically because of that story. I was like, I needed to get this out to everyone. And also when I was younger, I'd considered like going to medical school because I had been in sort of the medical industry as a patient for so many years. I was really interested in all of that. I just didn't want to go to the hours of school that it contained or pay the money for it. But I was always like, I wish I could do something in the health field without having to, become like a doctor or something. And I think that this was the best route because I can teach what I know from my own experience and from what I'm seeing for others. And there's really no downfall. I mean, everyone needs to still keep up with their doctors and make sure that everything's good and they're getting the right nutrients and their blood work's good and stuff like that. But I just absolutely love coaching, coaching people and helping them reverse their chronic illnesses.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. That's so cool. I love that. I had a lot of similarities to you. But it was interesting to me when you were going to all these doctors and you had all these chronic issues, did doctors ever mention diet to you? Did they ever bring it up?
No, not until I saw the naturopath. Um, he was the only one, and that was not even that long ago. So, I mean, all the years like from birth till my mid 20s, like no one brought up diet. And I actually brought up my rheumatologist out here in Los Angeles. I had said, when I eat less, um I didn't exactly know what it was at the time, but I said when I eat less sugar, but it was really like processed sugar, not like fruits, but less sugar, and I said and less gluten, my joints don't hurt as bad. And he was just like, oh, I mean, there's no research on that, like, I don't know. And I was like, have you found that with any of your patients? Like, maybe I should stop eating that. And it's like, I don't think it's that. It might just be like a coincidence at the timing. And I was kind of like, and I tested it again and I was like, no, I'm noticing a difference. And he's like, no, do you want another cortisone shot?
Because it just it drives me crazy. They just don't know much about nutrition. And I think we look to doctors for all the answers, but we don't know that they had less than 2 weeks of nutrition education in their school. So it's like they don't have all the answers. We do have to look outside. And I love that you were able to find solutions outside of it. That's so cool. So with your clients, what challenges do you face? Like, or what challenges do you think they have, like their biggest challenges when they're transitioning into a plant-based lifestyle coming off of it? Like, what do you think the biggest challenges are?
It seems as though, I mean, it's very different for everyone. It kind of depends on where they're coming from. Like, some of the people I work with have already sort of tried going plant-based a little bit. So they've already know a little bit of it. They've already kind of like started getting their gut kind of used to that much, more fiber, and they've dabbled in it a little bit. Some people don't really understand what it is, and they think, plant-based just means eating a little bit more plants. Um, some people think that plant-based is just not animals, but they can eat all the junk food. So it really kind of depends on the people. I would say that it seems like, some of the cravings are still there, especially in the beginning. That seems to be like a big one for people. And socializing especially if there's no one else in their lives. And I mean, I'm still experiencing it now. I mean, my partner thankfully is still plant-based, but no one else in our lives are. And so, socializing, going to your normal events, going to your Thanksgiving that's coming up, going to holidays, going to a wedding, going to a birthday party, like having to really prepare, um, think about, eating before you go, bringing something, asking, not being afraid to ask ahead, like, hey, just so you know, I'm I'm plant-based now, so I don't eat any animal products. Will you have anything there for me, or can I bring something? Or, you know, and in theory, I think a lot of people are like, oh, okay, okay. And then the time comes and I still fall into it too. Like if I don't know the host that well, like I still feel like weird, like bringing a giant like thing of soup with me or something, you know what I mean? So I think that um, social aspects and the have been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I can definitely see social aspects. That's for my clients too. Like they just don't want to feel weird bringing their own food. And I'm like, I have no issues bringing a giant bucket of fruit. I carry in watermelon slices, and I'm like, I don't care. But it takes that level of, I don't know, like it just maybe, maybe like, I don't know. You're very confident in your diet, like it works. For me, I wouldn't consider eating anything else.
Yeah, and I think that we need I think most of us and societally, we don't put ourselves first because for many reasons, right? And when it comes to our health, that's kind of all we have. Like, yeah, we have family and we have love and we need money and we need shelter, we need all these things. But like if you don't have your health, you kind of don't have anything. And if you're not going to put yourself first, your health is going to suffer. And you can't help anyone else until you are in a good place yourself. And so you need to kind of think, okay, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my health. I don't have to be, depending on where you are, like if you're trying to be really reverse something right away, maybe you need to be a little bit more strict for the time being. And then, you can eat a little bit more recreationally. But if you're really trying to get your health in check, you need to you need to be your own parent. You need to tell yourself like, this is what I'm doing right now, and this is why, and I'm gonna feel better, and I can't worry about what other people are thinking right now.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Yeah, you have to have that strong why. It's so key to have that why. I love how you mentioned you're in LA. I'm in Orange County, and so I totally get it with the
Oh,
plant-based food because I'm like we have some of the best plant-based restaurants in like the country. So it's like I eat out sometimes because it's so good. But the oils will get me, the salts get me, the glutens will get me, and I'm like, yeah, and I feel it. I totally, I see it in my skin. It comes out of my skin, and it's plant-based healthy food. To anyone else, this is really healthy food, but I'm like, it's still not making me feel very good.
right, exactly. I love that you're in Orange County. We'll have to maybe we could try to do an in-person meetup at some point.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
fun.
I
Maybe
know.
we could
I'm
do
like, I
like a
didn't know
little
we were so
event.
close. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. I'm like, yes. So you do know someone that's plant-based is close to you.
Yay.
That's cool. So yeah, so you have two books in the bundle. One of them, The Complete Guide to All Things Smoothies, which is awesome because I eat so many smoothies. I do a lot of lives in my group with smoothies too. So smoothies are like my world. And then your plants, pills, and punchlines, which is a really cool book. It's got some really simple recipes in there. So can you share the inspiration behind these books and maybe tell us a little bit more about them?
Yeah, so the smoothie book, I wanted to create something. So I eat smoothies almost every day. And a big reason for that is, I mean, I also love them and I've grown to love them even more. But like smoothies are just an easy, quick way to get in a ton of nutrients and vitamins. And a lot of people, it's hard, especially when you're starting out. They don't want to eat a salad. Like I don't even really enjoy that salads that much, and that's what they think. Like, what do you eat? Leave salads. And yes, but you don't have to eat them in a salad form if that's not what you enjoy. And that's sometimes could be a lot of chewing, to actually feel satiated. And so I put basically my salad in my smoothie. I put a lot of leafy greens, a lot of cruciferous in there. In the smoothie book, it's geared towards people that are maybe more, I mean, it's geared towards everyone. Everyone can eat a smoothie, but I wanted to make it a little more accessible for people who aren't used to eating that much fiber or aren't used to having that much leafy greens or more of the bitter cruciferous vegetables, and to get in a bunch of nutrients, but have it be a little bit easier. So now I put in about a pound of cruciferous or leafy greens in my smoothie. But in the smoothie book, it's a handful or two, just to kind of get your palate acclimated to having the greens in there, and they're hidden really quite nicely with the other flavors from fruits and stuff. And it's something that like the whole family can have. The kids can enjoy it. Your grandfather can enjoy it. It could be a smoothie. I mean, it could be a dessert. It can be a snack. It can be your breakfast. And then, getting just your essential vitamins, your minerals. Some of them have, put chia and flax seeds in so you can get your omega-3s. And it kind of just like, if you're gonna eat like junk food later in the day, just try to get a little smoothie in, at least get that in. It's better than taking like a multivitamin. So that was my idea behind that book. I wanted it to be easy and delicious and accessible for everyone. And not everyone, but most people have some sort of blender so they can kind of put that together. I mean, I highly recommend a high speed blender if you're going to be doing this often. But um, yeah, I mean, they're just good flavors there, and something easy to start with. And then plants, pills, and punchlines. I'd wanted to write sort of like a little bit of a memoir just because I feel like I've gone through so much crap health wise in my life. So even years ago, I wanted to write like a little bit of a book of just, my experience. And I kind of put that aside, like I'm never gonna write that, right? And then when one of the plant-based bundles were happening again and they asked me to be in it, I was like, I think it was the last one. Yeah. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll write, like sort of a small little introduction memoir of just kind of my story about what I went through health wise and medically, and why and how I transitioned to plant based, and how I can help people and who I help. And then I wanted to add in some of the recipes that I use that help me transition. So those are almost all of those are cooked, not all of them, but most of them are all cooked, whole food plant based recipes. And some of them look like there's a lot of ingredients, but it's just a bunch of different vegetables in them. So like I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed, but it's basically like your normal stuff, your soups, your tacos, your muffins, your pudding, I'm trying to remember, like I have a little cracker recipe in there, um, and a pasta recipe. And like those are things that I use to help me transition to going plant-based. And I didn't feel like I was missing anything in terms of like cheese or meat or anything. And like my family is not plant-based. When my parents stayed with us, we made a bunch of those recipes with them, and they were like, "Oh, we're so used to, we need to have our meat, we need to have our protein." I'm like, "There's plenty of protein, don't worry about it." And they really liked it. I thought my dad is super picky, and I was like, I don't want to tell him that it's plant-based, but he already knew I was. So he was kind of like, I don't know, like black bean tacos or bean, like where's the ground beef, right? But they liked them, they housed them. They always talk about it. They're like, when we come out for the holidays, they're gonna come out here to visit. And they're like, we want you to make your tacos again. And so those are the meals that not only are easy to help you transition, you're not going to miss anything. You can offer them to your friends and family who aren't plant-based or not interested in eating plant-based, and they're not going to feel like they're missing something. Like we've made our chili for friends. Like one of our friends is like a huge carnivore, and he ate it. It was like a pumpkin chili, pumpkin and bean, I think it was. And we still use those recipes. Like I I normally eat like mostly raw during the day, like raw fruits and vegetables, salads, smoothies throughout the day. And then we usually have a cooked dinner at night. And it's usually one of those. It's like just in our rotation, one of those recipes that's in that book. And so I just wanted to make something that was like, there you go. These are easy recipes. You don't even have to worry. You can just rotate those out every week.
That's perfect. Yeah, they look awesome. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get to this when I get off of detox and I can have cooked food again. uh,
Yeah.
so can you share maybe one of your favorite go-to like easy recipes or something simple that you do, maybe like a daily staple that you do that's very healthy and helps you with your health?
Yeah. I mean, I eat pretty basic for the most part. So it's not really that exciting sounding, but it always makes me feel great. I mean, it's my smoothies. Um, I pretty much eat smoothies, a giant smoothie during the day. And like I said, maybe this wouldn't be for everyone starting out with this massive amount that I make. I fill my whole Vitamix carafe, but I shove in, like today I just had I took the greenish white cabbage. I put a pound of chopped it up. I put a pound of that in my blender. I added about a half a cup of whole flax seeds because my blender will blend them up, to break it up to get the omega-3s. I put in 2 bananas. I put in I think it was like some frozen strawberries and peaches. was like a mixed bag of frozen fruit in there to keep it cold because you don't want your blender to heat. If you have a high speed blender, sometimes it heats up your products or your produce. Um, and just water until it like blends to a consistency that I like. And I have that pretty much every day. I mean, sometimes I'll mix out the greens, like I'll do a purple cabbage, or I'll do um, spinach or kale, or I've even done cauliflower as my base. If someone listening is like, oh, I want to try it, maybe, and you're starting out, maybe don't do a whole pound, maybe do, like a quarter pound or something of that. So that's what I do almost every day. Weekends, I kind of get a little bit less, I kind of go off my sort of diet a little bit more. But yeah, I eat that every day. And then for dinners, like I said, the recipes in the Plants, Pills, and Punchlines book, we rotate those out. But I would say like the soup is probably the easiest one. I just chop whatever vegetables are literally in my fridge at the time. It could be your root vegetables, it could like anything, carrots, celery, not cucumber doesn't really taste good cooked, but zucchini and just anything, any vegetables that are in your fridge, chop them all up, onion, garlic, put them in a giant pot, and then I just buy. If I haven't made my own vegetable broth, which I do with the scraps from the vegetables, often, if I haven't made that, then I just use store-bought low sodium vegetable broth. I make sure to read the ingredients, make sure there's nothing, weird in there. I try not to have any added sugars or oils. Try to do low sodium. I don't cook with a lot of salt, um, although I make sure to have salt in my diet. But yeah, and I add about probably two of those little cartons of vegetable broth. Let that boil for a while until the vegetables are to like the tenderness that you like, and then I'll add my seasonings. Sometimes I just get like the Italian seasoning like mix. It has everything in it. I just put like a ton of that. I love seasonings. Put a ton of that in there. Maybe some ground black pepper, maybe some smoked paprika, depending on what I'm feeling. Like, and that's it. It is so simple. My mom taught me that. You can also throw in, if you wanted to throw in a little bit of pasta noodles, like elbows. You can also throw in some bean, like any type of bean tastes good in there. For the most part, we put in usually like a white bean. Sometimes I don't put any of that. I just do straight up vegetables, and we have like two good sized bowls for our meal, and we are good. And we have some left over, which I love making leftovers. So it's one night I don't have to think about cooking because I do not enjoy cooking. Um, yeah, so I try to eat simply when I'm at home for the sake of health and for the sake of timing, and I don't like to think too hard about it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds good. I wish I could have some soup right now. I can have like a fruit soup, that's like a smoothie bowl, I guess that's what that's called.
Yeah. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't talk about it right now. You're
I
going
know,
through
I'm like,
detail.
man, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's funny. You definitely brought up a hot button for me. It's oils, hidden oils in things, like even the vegetable broths. Like you go to a store bought like Sprouts, and I turn over their vegetable broth and it's got oil in there. And I'm like, why is there oil in this vegetable broth? And it's crazy that they have all these hidden oils, and it's like you really have to read the ingredients.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do with your clients too, like help them learn like the ingredients. Like a lot of, when I was younger, I never cared. I thought, well, what was on the box, and nowadays it's like if it says vegan or plant-based, a lot of people are like, it's healthy, I can get that. And it's like you got to turn it over. You got to read all the ingredients because there's a lot of hidden crap in there. And many, if not most, oils are inflammatory. So it really, if people are trying to bring down their inflammation, they're trying to break free from chronic illness, it's really important to try to stay away from those. A little bit here and there you might be okay, but it kind of depends, how fast do you want your healing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy. It's in everything, and it's like if you were avoiding oils, you just really can't have anything that's in a package and you like at all.
I know, it's crazy. It's like and like you said in the broth, it's like why would they put that in there? Like it's not a preservative. Like why are you putting that in here?
Yeah, it's funny because I go to a really expensive gym and they have silk almond milk, and the silk almond milk has vegetable oil in it. And I'm like, these people are just drinking vegetable oil, and they're like, I got my protein shake. And I'm like, no.
I know a lot of those plant milks do because it helps thicken it and emulsify it. I am actually guilty of it. Like the oat milk that I have has oil in it. I only drink a little bit in my coffee, but it's like it just tastes so good. But I know it's like it's just you're better off like making it you're at home. Or there are some you can buy now that don't have oils in them, but almost almost all of them have oils. It's crazy.
Everything. Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah. I'm like, man, it's just hidden everywhere. All right. So do
Mhm.
you have any final words of advice or maybe encouragement for someone? I know we're kind of going into the holiday season. It can be stressful and hard to eat well or, stick to your goals. Like, do you have any kind of final words of encouragement for anybody?
Um, well, a big thing is, earlier in our talk about, really putting yourself first and, figuring out your why, like why you want to eat healthy, why you want to do this. And reminding yourself of it, writing it down, and remembering that if you don't take care of yourself, your health is going to dwindle and you're not going to be able to take care of anyone else. You're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do. So you really need to um, put yourself first, put your health first. And, you're going to get the weird questions, especially if you're transitioning now, or maybe you have already and it's been like, I don't know, 9 months, but you haven't been through the holiday season yet with family or with friends. You're going to get the questions like why, like what's going on, like you're going to get the questions, and it takes a little bit of practice to wean out, like, are people asking me because they're really curious, are they asking me because maybe they want some advice? Most of the time I'm finding, and I shouldn't say most of the time, much of the time I find that people are curious because they're doing something healthy and I'm not, and I want to feel better about my choices. And so they're almost looking to sort of bring you back down to their sort of not as great choice level. And so just kind of, answering it short and sweet, just say, I feel better when I eat this way. And if they pry more, you can answer more. But a lot of times people let that go. Um, if and then just if people are not asking for advice, try not to give them the advice if they're not asking. Um, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Brooke Goldner, she'd had this, she kind of gave me this idea. It's like if you're trying to help people and they don't want your help, you're just bothering them. That's from her. And it's like, that makes sense. And I just want to help people all the time. And I want to give them the information, that all this information that I've learned and that I've experienced and that I've helped others with. So it's really hard for me to hold back. So I'm just like, I need to just tell the whole world, like, you can feel really good. You don't have to be on a ton of medication. You don't have to, be stuck seeing doctors every week. And you can actually like live a really good life just because everyone's aging. Just because you're aging doesn't mean you have to feel like crap. But there's a lot of people that are not open to that. They don't understand it. They don't want to hear it. So I have to be like, I have to hold it in. And so that would be my advice is, don't offer it if they're not asking, but, know your true why and know why you're doing this, and do it for you and stick with it.
Yeah, that's awesome advice for sure. I know, and I can say with like certainty that the questions and the comments, like, they'll stop after a while, because I mean, I've been going in an office and I eat raw and I just eat fruits in an office, and that's very different. And I don't get any questions or comments anymore because I've been doing it for 3 years, and people are very used to just let Kelly just sit in the corner and eat her fruit, like they don't even want to hear it from me. So it's like it'll stop, it's like once you're doing this and then they see how you feel, like they'll ask you about your food, and it's like you don't have to like preach about it and say like, no, just eat fruit, like don't eat that meat, it's like I don't even have to say anything. Like my energy and skin and vitality, it all speaks for itself, so it's like just keep going and it'll all prove it, it shows that it works.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, lots of people have stopped. It's finally stopped for me too, and it took, I don't know, 3 years
It
for
takes a
people
while.
to
Yeah, it takes
finally
a while.
be
Yeah,
used to
but it
it.
does stop.
Yeah,
It for sure
yeah,
stops, but it does take a while. Yeah, because you're like, man, like, aren't people gonna get it? Like, I feel so good, but it's like, doesn't they're kind of like, all right, she's doing something right,
right, exactly,
That's interesting
exactly.
because you said you went vegan right when you went vegan when I did over the pandemic. And so that's interesting too because it was so easy. It's like there was no temptations, there was no, there was no going out to eat. It was very easy. So I feel like we were very lucky in that in that aspect to take away meat, it was so cool. So
Oh, that's when you went vegan as well?
yeah, it was November 2019. I cut out all meat and like eggs and all that kind of stuff too. I was already out of it, dairy and stuff. So yeah, crazy, but it
Nice.
was so easy. It was like the perfect time. So anybody that went vegan
Yeah,
over the time, they probably also know how easy it was because it was like there was no
right.
temptation. I was at my house, there was no other food to eat.
Exactly, exactly.
That's funny. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Laurie. Yes, check out the plant-based bundle. I'm going to link Laurie's information if you guys want to get in contact with her. I'll put her Instagram down below, and yeah, reach out to her if you have any questions. All right, thank
Thank you
you,
so much.
Laurie.